Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tanisha Wood. I am here tonight with Jazmin.
Hola.
She just got back from Paris.
Paris, yes.
How was that?
It was everything. I loved it. They loved me. I can't wait to go back.
So when was your last date?
Girl.
You're single now?
I'm very single. I'm single.
Okay, when was your last date?
I think May.
Why has it been so long? I mean, you're obviously beautiful. You're smart.
Oh, thanks, boo. I don't know. Honestly, like my friends do say that I'm picky. I don't think I'm particularly picky. I just think that I'm a person that really goes off of energy, and I go off of multiple things, but like that feeling just isn't there. Like I'm open. I go out. I'll meet people. I'm like very charismatic. I love to meet new people. I make conversation. I'm not like looking down on my phone like a, technology zombie. And I just don't have that like connection or that chemistry with guys that I meet. So
why do your friends say that you're picky? Like, what do they cite as reasons for you being picky?
My whole thing is I just don't want to entertain stuff. Bullshit, yeah. Like stuff that I know isn't for me. And I don't want to waste anybody's time.
So you won't go out on a date, you're saying, unless you feel like a true connection already that warrants even going out on the date in the first place.
Well, it's not even that. Like, I haven't even met dudes who are like charismatic enough to even like that I don't even necessarily know well, but have that like seductive quality. Not seductive in the sexual sense, but just seductive in you're able to seduce me to want to spend time with you. I don't even meet dudes like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't know. It's like these dudes don't know how to
they don't have
even do that. Like it's ridiculous.
I'm talking for the male out there right now that's like, okay, what does that mean when you say that the thing that makes me even want to take it to the next level and get to know you more? Like what is that thing? What is that quality? What is that spark? What are they missing? Let's help the men out.
I mean, it's so many things, but like, for example, being interested, right? So even if you look on social media or if you talk to people, it seems like there's this trait where everybody is glorifying being unbothered, not being interested. People want to pretend like, they don't want to seem into you, right? So if I'm having a conversation with you and just to give you eye contact and to be engaged, even if it's for, say we're at a party, right? And there's multiple people there, and technically in your mind, you want to meet new people, which is cool. But if you don't have that seductive quality, like just give me like 3 minutes. If I can give you 3 minutes knowing that my goal is to talk to multiple people, but in those 3 minutes, I'm going to act like nobody else matters. Like there is nothing more charming than someone giving you attention and just like asking you follow-up questions and just being curious. Curiosity is so attractive, right? So what happens is a lot, and you can be an interesting person, but because people are so focused on, like, it's like they have ADD. Like you'll be at a party and you're talking to someone and they're not even looking at you. They're looking around. Like they're just kind of like reading the room, like wondering like, oh, like who's the next person I can talk to? And even if that next person that they're going to talk to, they're not going to give them any attention either. That is so unattractive, and people don't realize that, so definitely curiosity, humility. Like people are out here like, I don't know if you remember like, remember Poetic Justice, Chicago, Regina Hall's man? Remember there was a scene where he was like, when they were basically talking about dumping each other, and he was like, I got a house, I got a car, I work out, like basic shit. And these dudes, like, bruh,
they want praise for the basic
because you have
level.
A job and you have a car, or like even if you don't, it's like we live in New York, so you don't necessarily need a car, but you have a job and okay, cool, you know, you have style, whatever. That is basic level bottom feeder nonsense. Like, but people,
am I supposed to be impressed by that?
You know what I'm saying? Like, that boggles my mind.
But you know why that is?
I don't even know.
The reason I've dissected this, I've thought about it a lot and I've dissected it. It's because once one person feeds into whatever you're you're giving rather, it becomes the standard. So if a man goes out with one woman and he's like, oh, well, you know, I got a job and, you know, I got this car and, you know, basic just living, things you need to live as an adult. And she's impressed by it or gives him something that he wants because of it, it then becomes the standard to impress. And so then the next woman, he says, oh, by the way, you know, I got this job and I got this car. And if a woman encounters enough men like that, she thinks that's the standard. And then she then lowers her standards to meet him where he's at. And then that becomes the playing field where now the women are like, okay, I guess the standard that's like, okay, you got a job, you got a car. And then the men are like, well, that's all I have to do because I've gotten with now several women that have been wowed by that standard. Exactly. And so the women have lowered the standards and the men have kept doing the same thing. And now it's the standard. And it's the same reason why a man thinks that it's okay to do a minimum level and that women are going to throw themselves at him or sleep with him or do whatever. Because once one woman, like, we're all in this together. And once one woman accepts this, then it changes the playing field for everybody. And now you're the outlier and the weird one when you don't accept the standard. Well, it's like, well, the last 9 girls I've been with have said this is fine. And not only have said this is fine, but shown it's fine by going along with whatever I wanted because I've met the standard. When really, no, you haven't. They've just let you go. Exactly. And now the system's messed up.
That is 100% true.
Yeah, no, I've dissected this.
Yeah, that's a fact. And it's not even just like the material stuff because and these are dudes with nice places, right? Nice jobs. Again, that's like all your job and your home is telling me is you have bills.
That's standard.
You have bills, bro. You have a place to live. That means you have a rent or a mortgage. That's all that says. That doesn't say anything about your quality of being a life partner, of being a husband, whatever. That tells me nothing. For example, so if I meet somebody who has these things, like say they have a sexy job, right? Then they expect you to be impressed by that. And that doesn't impress me, you know? Same with celebrity, all of that nonsense, like none of that stuff impresses me because that's not going to tell me what type of life partner you're going to be. Right. Mm-hmm. But again, like you said, unfortunately there have been women that go for that. And so they don't think it's been working for them. So it's like, they have to really feel like you're worth it to put in that effort that it would take, you know, to get your time, get your affection. Mm-hmm. No.
And if they don't get it from you, then it's like, well, I'll go to the next one and I probably will get it. Yeah. So it becomes you're the outlier.
Yeah. But seductiveness also, like intelligence. I've never been attracted to a dud. I've always been attracted to brilliant men. Like, you just like teach me something, challenge me, you know, don't be somebody who can't disagree, who doesn't ever disagree with me. Allow me to see that you have a mind of your own. I met a dude when I first moved here in like 2016. I was like at some summer party or whatever. And like I had just met this dude and he was talking about, he like grabbed me up. He was like, yo, like I don't play games. You know,
you're already grabbing me. So I think you're playing games.
Aggressive. Like, right. What are you doing? He was like, yeah, I'm not going to be chasing you. Like just letting you know that that they don't have any kind of patience. Part of seduction is all about patience, right? So if somebody doesn't have any kind of patience in getting to know you, let alone the physical intimacy, they ain't going to be with that. And they're going to be aggressive. I don't deal with aggressive men.
Right.
Like, that's no. And that also, like, men who are like that usually have some kind of, inferiority complex. So I can't even be bothered with that. Like, it's just a list. It is a list, girl. Like, I can't even.
Okay. When was your last relationship?
My last relationship for real ended in 2011.
What is this,
2019?
2019, so 8 years?
Yeah, well, that relationship itself lasted 7 years. I had a fluke relationship.
Wait, so you were with that guy for 8 years ago for 7 years?
Yeah, so I'm 33 now. That relationship was from the age I was 18 to 25. I dated a guy.
That is a long time.
Girl, it's a long time.
Now,
Yes.
I know you're celibate.
Yes.
Were you celibate in that relationship?
I was.
For 7 years.
Let me just
Wait,
tell
that
y'all
was
a story. When I met her, when I met Tanisha at our friend's brunch party, and I told her that y'all should have seen the look she gave me when I told her that I was dating this man for 7 years. Yes, girl, we ain't have sex for 7 years. We did other things, we was cutting up. But yeah, we didn't have intercourse.
Is this from
years.
a religious belief or?
Yeah, definitely religious. We had the same religious beliefs.
Are you?
Yeah.
What is your religious belief?
I definitely believe in Jesus and the Word of God, the Bible, the New Testament. So yeah, and there's a lot of things in there about, keeping yourself and not succumbing to lasciviousness and sexual lust and things like that. So yeah, definitely trying to hold on to that. And I haven't stuck to that since, I wasn't firm in that. So in that relationship, yeah, we didn't have sex, but I wound up having sex afterwards.
If you don't mind me asking, were you a virgin during that relationship?
No, I had lost my virginity before it, very close to that time. So I met my boyfriend, one of my closest friends. She, I went to, I graduated a week ahead of her. And, I went to go stay with her. And so it was her cousin. So, he came down to see her graduate. I spent that whole weekend with the family. And we were just getting to know each other. And I was, so enamored with this dude. I was 18. He was 21. He was just, dope. A dude that I always wanted and never thought existed as far as, kind of a male version of me in the sense of cool as hell, but, still had, morals, still had religion, but not, corny. Funny, intelligent, just fun. We had great, deep conversations, especially to be that young. So I was just and he was cute, all of these things, right? And I was so enamored by him. And then we just started talking. And this was before social media. So we exchanged emails. We started emailing each other. Then we started talking on the phone. We actually established our relationship long distance. I was in a long distance relationship my whole 4 years of college. And I was so happy. Wait,
so where was he and where were you?
He lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm from North Carolina. And I was in school in UNC Chapel Hill. Mm-hmm. So my entire 4 years, I was in a relationship with him. He would visit me. I would visit him. The whole long distance part was great. I never felt any kind of trust issues were in the way or anything like that. So after I graduated college, I moved to Pittsburgh mostly because I wanted, I was so in love and I wanted to start my life with him and all these things. So that's how I wound up in Pittsburgh. And so that was 2008 when I graduated, and then we were together. We broke up in 2011.
Why did you guys break up?
Actually, the year that I moved there, 2008, that summer, 2 of his best friends were killed within a month of each other.
Oh, my God.
And neither one of these dudes were about any kind of gang life or any street life. They were both good dudes, church-going dudes. So it was that made it that much more surprising and devastating when it's least expected like that, right? So because of that, he just didn't handle it well. He never got the therapy that he needed. He had all this pent up anger and, hurt. And because I was there and I was trying to be the ride or die girlfriend, I'm very nurturing anyway in a relationship. So he kind of took it out on me. And at the time I haven't experienced a lot of death in my life as far as family or close friends. So mm-hmm. I was basically making excuses for him, saying, well, I don't know how I would react if 2 of my best friends were killed like that. And so I stuck it out. So basically our relationship between 2008 through 2011 was very rocky, very up and down. It's kind of he turned into a completely different person. And it was to the point where I was okay, I can't do this anymore.
You were trying to manage the emotions that, 1, he didn't know how to manage and he didn't seek the help to manage. So it's you were both dealing with emotions that you didn't know how to manage.
Exactly. So it was a lot. So it was rough. like the breakup in itself was very hard. You know, there was a point where I felt like I was going through a nervous breakdown just because it was just so much. Like, he was my best friend. You know, we went to church together. Even in the breakup, we were still seeing each other every week at church. So to see somebody every week like that, you know, you're dealing with the hurt of you're mourning the death of a relationship. That's a lot. And you're young. Like, it was just a lot. So, I mean, we've gotten well past that. Like, that's one of my homies now.
So in the 7 years you guys were together, did it ever come up? Like,
what?
Maybe let's have sex? Is that hard? What keeps
hard.
you not doing it, especially being a sexual person? Like, how does it work?
I mean, it's very difficult because we're fleshly beings, right? But if you're looking at it from a spiritual point of view, then that's the thing. It's like there's spiritual and there's flesh. You can either succumb to your fleshly side, which is the easier thing to do. But if you're trying to chase or live up to a spiritual standard, then there are certain fleshly lust or, animal instincts that you have to, kind of sacrifice, basically, to just show that you have that spiritual, like, strength. So that's mostly, it's not that we weren't freaky or that we didn't have those desires or that sex is necessarily like an evil, bad thing. It's just like, if it's kind of like a test too. It's like if you feel like you're that ready or if you feel like you love someone that much, then why not get married? Like, what's the reasons for not getting married? And then if you start thinking about the reasons why we didn't get married, say you love someone, right, and you're committed, there's no true barriers to getting married, then there's really no excuse to not get married. But we weren't trying to get married too, so it's like, yeah,
So you're saying, like, if it's not deep enough to get married, it's also not deep enough to have sex.
Yeah, because it's like, you love me so much, then why can't we get married? Like, I definitely put sex on a pedestal. I'm not ashamed of that. I tell dudes this as I'm getting to know them.
How do you bring that up? If you meet a guy today, how does it come out?
I don't know. Like, sex is in conversations all the time. So at some point it comes out organically. I don't just like, yell it over the rooftops. But at some point it comes up, and then I'm not ashamed of it. I bring it up. There was one dude who kind of looked at me like I had three heads. I wasn't even checking for him like that, number one. So the fact that it was just funny, like, then he proceeded to like tell me all these women that he was messing with, how he had this roster, and I'm just like, okay, why are you telling me this? Is this supposed to impress me? Because if anything, it's repelling me right now.
Right.
But no, I've never had any dudes like blatantly disrespect me. Like, of course, if they fall back because they know they're not going to get any ass out of me, then, that shows itself, which is fine because I'd rather know that sooner than later. But yeah, like, no, I've never had any like instance where I was like, damn, maybe I shouldn't have told him that, because I want you to know. Right. Because I want you to know from jump, like, this isn't going to be one of those situations where, you're just, you're not using me as a drug. You're not using me because that's how a lot of people talk about sex now. It's like, girl, I just need, the fiending. I need my itch scratched or whatever the fuck. And I was like, do you hear yourself? Like, this is a whole soul. This is a whole being. And you're thinking of them as like no different than you would a drug, or like from like people don't do like a sweet tooth. Like you need your fix.
I just need my coffee. I just need my cake. I just need my dick.
No, I don't think of sex like that.
Do you think though, on the other spectrum, that this makes dudes rise in a way that they wouldn't have before? So, for example, if you meet a dude and you say, just so you know, and being honest with you, I'm abstinent and sex isn't going to be a thing that's going to occur with us unless we take it to a whole nother level, i.e. marriage. Yeah, does that make them be like, well, wow, that means I have to try that much harder and that means I have to rise? Like, how do they then react once they do accept this as the circumstance?
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, I'm still single, so it just so happened that it didn't work out for other reasons, but they didn't like run away because of the sex thing, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure some of them have, because like I said, I meet a lot of dudes. But yeah, like, they'll continue to try and get to know you. They'll still like, wine and dine you, take you out on dates. And so, yeah, it's never a situation like the only time where I've done that was I don't like people in general. I told you this, like romantically, right? It's rare that I really like some. I moved here at the end of 2016, And I've only liked one dude since I've lived here. And like, that was an eye opener for me because that was the first time I've ever been smitten. Just like giddy smitten, like, you know, schoolgirl crush. Like, it just never happened for me like that, you know? So yeah, like, that was the only time where I didn't stick to those standards, and that was me ignoring my own standards, ignoring red flags, but being so smitten, right? And then, you know,
what were the red flags that you ignored?
It's, you know, just knowing that, or just feeling based on his actions or lack of actions, like, for example, like lack of planning dates, like using the excuse like, oh, I'm spontaneous.
How did you meet this guy?
I met him at a party.
So how did it all go down? Take us back to the beginning.
So I met him at a party in January of 2018. And so I was with my homegirl who has since moved to Atlanta. And I was just like, oh, that's so-and-so. He's cute. And I don't ever find people attractive like that, to the point where, like, you see me now, I'm blushing, right? So I don't, like, it just never happens. And long story short, she knew a guy who knew him. He got, the mutual friend got his Instagram. She gave the Instagram to me. I slid into this man's DMs, girl.
What did you say?
I never slid into a man's
What
DMs.
did you say?
I don't remember. I said something like, oh, I was at this party on Saturday night. I think it was a Saturday. And I wanted to, I was like, I liked your eyes and your smile, and I wanted to flirt with you. But something, I said whatever reason why I didn't. I was like, so here we are. Something, girl, I don't even know.
You know what? I kind of like it.
I was just honest. Back to that honesty, being vulnerable. I
like the authenticity.
Closed mouths don't get fed. So, right. And then that was like the Monday after that party. And he didn't respond until like that Thursday. But my dumb ass, I'm such a rookie at like social media, like whatever, dating, games, whatever it is. Because after I sent it, then I looked on his page like a dummy. And then I saw, like, as I was scrolling, I saw a girl come up, like, and then I think the caption was like, my better half or something like that. It was like one of those pictures where it was like a vantage point where he took a picture of her eating. You know, they were at a restaurant somewhere. I was like, oh, Lord, this man got a girlfriend. I feel bad. I'm like,
you know the great thing on Instagram? You can unsend.
True.
So if somebody hasn't seen something, you can just make it disappear.
I think I learned that later. I definitely learned that later because I was stressing out, girl. I was like, oh my God. But I think another reason why I wasn't stressing too much because the date was like kind of old.
Got it.
And he didn't have any other pictures of her. So I was like, maybe they broke up.
So you scroll back that 52 weeks.
Girl, I don't even remember. But I was like, oh Lord, I'm trying to get at somebody else's man. I'm so sorry. But then he wound up like texting me or like responding that Thursday or something, right? He was like, I'm so sorry. I'm just now seeing this. And then, you know, he just seemed like a nice guy. He was like, because I was basically like, we were kind of making small talk because he was asking me about the party. Had I ever been to that person's party before? And I hadn't. And then my girl, I was laughing at my girlfriend because she was like, because when stuff started going south, I was like, this is your fault. You made me slide into his DMs. And she was like, girl, like, I was like, she was like, you want a pen pal if you don't ask that man for his number? I was like, gosh, this is so much. I can't. So I basically, girl, I did all of that. So, like, I kind of initiated the whole thing. Like, I was basically like, you know, are you interested in getting to know each other? Just very cutesy and stuff. So, you know, we exchanged numbers, started talking on the phone. You know, slowly getting to know each other. Then we like met up. Did our first cute little, you know, meetup was like at Dave and Buster's, which is, you know, nice. It was nice. And then we went on a couple of dates. We were still getting to know each other. But yeah, so the red flags came in the fact that I just started to sense like he was emotionally unavailable. I could tell you had probably just got out of this relationship.
Did you ask him about it?
Yeah. Oh, girl, I'm a questions person.
Same.
But I try to ask it in a way where it doesn't feel like an interrogation because I do know that some people aren't, you know, open, especially to their like romantic past and things. But yeah, like, so that was the number one red flag was that he was closed off. and he didn't really want to talk about himself that much. He was definitely more on the emotionally unavailable side, but I knew that was a red flag from the jump. Our first date, I asked him, I said, what are your insecurities? I asked him that on the first date.
I love that you asked that.
Hell yeah, I asked that. I always ask that. And he said something like, what did he say? He said something like, he said two things. He was a typical kind of man thing when it comes to like their careers and stuff. Basically like, he feels like whatever he's going to do or create isn't good enough. But then the second thing that he said that was a red flag was that he doesn't feel like he's going to be able to love somebody the way they need to be loved. And I was like, oh, Lord. Red flag alert.
So at that moment, you saw the red flag.
At that moment, my instinct, my gut said, girl, just run. He's fine. He's cute. He's all of these things, but you need to get the fuck out of Dodge. That's what my instincts told me. Of course, I didn't listen.
Why didn't you listen?
Because I was smitten.
Because it seems like you were the person that sort of always listened to your instincts.
This was me at 32, not listening for the first time, right? Mm-hmm. So, everything happens for a reason. I definitely had to learn that lesson for a reason. But yeah, so that was the first red flag. Then the second red flag was just like the typical fuckboy communication, like, not getting back to you for a couple of days, making excuses on like, just not, following up on like wanting to see. Because a man that really likes you, no matter how busy he is,
you can't keep him away.
He's going to make himself available. He's going to make dates, all that jazz.
Did you ever call him out directly? Like, hey, I texted you on Friday. Why are you just not getting back to me on Tuesday?
Definitely.
What did he say?
I don't know. Like some dumb shit. Like I don't even remember. I just remember him making some nonsense excuse, and me, that whole thing was he never played me. I played myself because everything he told me.
Yo, that's a gem.
There was always a red flag.
Yeah, he told you what was up. You just chose in that moment not 100%. To listen, but it was never him being so sly that you couldn't see.
It wasn't like he played. He was so slick. He was so smooth.
Right.
Like I
he
knew
showed you what was there.
100%. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, girl. It was just some like, oh, well, if we really want to see each other, it doesn't matter. We're just spending time with each other. It doesn't matter what we do. Some nonsense where he thinks he's being smooth, but it's like, no. Just shows a lack of effort, like a lack of preparation, because it's just like your job, like these men will work to the umpteenth degree at their jobs or at their careers, but they want to slack off when it comes to, romance. Like,
that's the big lesson here, I think, is that sometimes we like to say as women, like, oh, well, he just played me and he did this and he did that. At the end of the day, most people aren't that slick. Most people are showing you who they are. Yeah. They're giving you hints. They're giving you clues. They might not say it directly, but they certainly say it indirectly. And it's whether we choose to receive what they're saying and what they're showing, and whether we choose to use that information to make a good decision, or whether we choose to say, I don't want to see that right now, so I'm not going to, so I'm going to ignore it.
So again, I'm the friend that never likes anybody. So of course I'm smitten, right? So I'm telling my friends about it. So they're all excited for me.
Like, oh my God, you actually like him.
You like somebody. Oh my gosh. Right. So all of these things. So they're kind of like gassing it up. But when I would say like, oh, I don't know, I think he's a fuckboy, I'm about to like let this go. They'd be like, no, making excuses. But and then you start like second guessing at least I did. I started second guessing the whole thing. And I'm like, well, maybe no. Like, and because at the end of the day, your gut feeling is like
always right.
If he likes you, you will never have to second guess it.
100%.
You will know.
100%.
Right. And so yeah, and then there was a point where I was like, we met up on a date. Maybe it was like the fifth date. And I was like, I told him, I was like, listen, I get the feeling that, I forget what I said, but I basically was like, I kind of gave him options, something like, do you want this to be like a friends with benefits situation?
You guys were having sex?
No, we weren't.
Okay.
I was just trying to see where he was at, basically.
Got it.
So I asked him that. I said, do you want this to be a thing where we get to know each other and then like we see if we build something? And I think I forget what the other option was, but he was like leaning more toward, he said, and he was so awkward. He said leaning more towards the friends with benefits. Like that's the one he picked, right? And I was like, yeah. And I looked, and then we were out like at a bar, and I was like, listen, I said, I'm not gonna have sex with you. I looked at him dead in his eye, and I said, that's not gonna happen. And it wasn't a big dramatic ordeal. I still liked him very much. But I was just telling him, I was like, that's not going to work for me. That's just going to end in pain. Like, again, I'm always honest. I'm always open about how important sex is to me. No guy can ever plead ignorance on the fact that they think that casual sex is a thing with me. They know that if sex is in the equation, it means a lot. It means that I care about you. So like I told him that then, and that was April. And, and then, like we were pretty much about to part ways, and then I remember, like we got up, like we were about to like hug, and then he like kissed me, and we started tongue. This was like after this whole conversation.
So this is like, what do you want? All or nothing. You in, you out, and then you were like, bye, and then he's like, okay, like
so we kissed,
so
girl.
Deep embrace.
Let me tell you, science is a motherfucker. Because them fucking pheromones, when this man was kissing me, I was like, oh, Lord. Again, that smitten bullshit. But again, I stuck to it. And then maybe like some weeks had passed. But so my thing was, he was a nice guy. Like, he didn't do anything to me, but I just knew that he wasn't at the place where I was. And I really didn't know, because he didn't really want to open up to me about his breakup. I didn't know where he was at. And it wasn't that I wasn't trying to trap that man into no relationship. I just wanted to get to know him, and that vulnerability wasn't there. He was just so shut off. So it wasn't like I was like, fuck you, I never want to see you again. He had a lot of qualities that I liked just in a person as an individual. So maybe like a couple weeks after that, maybe like 3 or 4 weeks after that, there was like some art show that I had saw, and then I invited him to it. And I was like, we can just go as friends. And we did.
So after the talk that you guys had and before the art show,
had
you guys been regularly communicating?
No, not really. Mm-mm.
Okay.
I kind of just invited him to this thing just to let him know, like, no hard feelings. We're both into art. You want to go to this? Mm-hmm. Cool. That's how I took it. But as we looked at the art show, we were having a good time. Then we wound up going to we were in Soho somewhere, just like looking at shops and stuff. And he was getting really flirtatious. And so that was my thing, was I was cool with just being platonic friends. Mm-hmm. And motherfucker, you just heard me say where I was at. But again, silly smitten Jazmin, like this man is showing me like this physical affection and stuff. And I think when we parted ways that day, like he kind of like nuzzled my like neck or something like that. I don't think we kissed. But it was definitely like on a romantic level. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, damn it. I'm not like 100% over him. Because I didn't realize it until that moment. And then I think we saw each other a couple more times after that. And I just remember I invited him to my house in May. And I cooked. And he came over. It was after work. It was on a Friday night.
But at this point, had he said anything additional to that conversation that you guys had, or had he changed anything, or was it?
He was doing the typical fuckboy shit where they give you boyfriend or
vibes,
not boyfriend vibe. Not that you're like he was saying that he was my boyfriend, but for example, I was talking about his house, right, and how he needs to get cooking, like real cooking pots,
right.
Right. So he has this cute little sexy place. So I was like, bro, you need some adult pots and pans. And then I said something about because he, keeps his hair nice or whatever. And I think I had mentioned I was like, you should sleep with satin pillowcases.
I'm sorry, but if I go to a man's house and I see satin pillowcases, my mind goes in way too many different directions. No. I'm like, okay, number one, does a woman live here? Number two, but me personally, I don't like a man that's too groomed. I don't like a man that's, so if he's like, oh no, honey, this is for my hair. Nah.
But I would say, I think I said a joke as kind of like, oh, if I ever sleep over there, you need to have satin pillowcases for me, right? Natural hair or whatever.
Right.
So I was saying these things, and I forget what I said, but he was saying like, okay, I'm making a list for you. Mm-hmm. Like all this type of shit, like, oh, I'm making a list for you to for me to have stuff in my house to make you comfortable.
So the good pots and the satin pillowcases.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you say that? Or like when he had came over my house, and we were just chilling. Like I said, the one thing that pissed me off when this whole shit hit the fan, I will never forget. He was at my house, and I had just randomly, because like nowadays, like you're like texting a lot. It had occurred to me. I was like, I never really heard you say my name like out loud, and I was just like, I was randomly I was like, say my name.
Say my name, say my name. If no one is around you, say, baby, I love you.
And then he was like, Jazmin Jackson. And then he said his last name. And I was like, what the fuck? And when I tell you,
So wait, he inserted his last name as yours.
Yeah, so this isn't his last name that I'm about to say. But for example, he was like, Jazmin Jackson Johnson. Why the fuck would you say that, bruh? Like, why would you even put that shit in my head? My mind wasn't even on anything like that. My whole goal was for just us to get to know each other, and I'm all about when people come to my house, like my place is like very comfortable and plush. It's always some therapy session that's happening at my house. So I just wanted to just really connect to him on a deeper emotional level. Mm-hmm. That was my goal, right?
So this particular night when you're at his place and he's inserting his last name into yours. Girl. You guys are talking, he's trying to make a list of all the things that you need. Are you thinking things have changed in terms of where he's at in his mentality?
But there was still that insecurity, right? So part of this too, in my own fuck up, was that this was the first time that a guy that I was interested, I wasn't 100% secure in his feelings for me. So that breeded an insecurity within me because that's just not something that I had experienced before. So there was part of that too of just oh my gosh, I don't know, does he like me? Just kind of this weird teenage, just insecurity, just of not knowing, right? But in that, like I said, what I said earlier was when that methodology that people like to use where it's don't let them know that you like them too much because that's how you hook them. But that only works on an insecure person.
Right.
Well, in his particular case, because he wasn't really into me like I had been used to, not that I'm a man eater, because I I want to like you as well. But
generally you understand where people and their feelings are at.
So that was just new for me, and I wasn't secure in his feelings for me. So yeah, but the whole time I had those red flags. I just never was. I always knew, I always knew that he wasn't the one based on. It should never be a mystery. I should know, and that's always how it's been. I've always known when a man wants to be with me, and that was the first instance where that wasn't the case. But yeah, so he was over there. I think I had mentioned oh, you never do scalp massages for your hair. Girl, we talking about all kinds of crazy stuff. We had made out at one point.
Were you trying to give him a whole hair care routine? Do scalp massages.
I sure was.
Sleep on a satin pillowcase.
Yes, I sure was. Because again, he has a nice head of hair. And so we were talking about that. And I was like, oh, well, I can give you a scalp massage. Again, I'm very maternal. I'm very nurturing. This had nothing to do with sex. I promise you. So
anytime you touch a man's body, wherever,
that's not where. That's
you
where
could be let me give you a nose massage. Let me give you an ear massage. Let me give you a left eyebrow massage. And they're thinking oh, okay, cool. It's a massage.
No, so I go get my essential oils and my hair oils and stuff. And then I was come to the kitchen, and because I wanted to, how we wet our hair first before we put any products in it so it can penetrate. So I put my hands in the water, and then I start patting his hair. Girl, this man grabs my wrist. I guess that did it for him. He just lost it. He grabs my wrist. He pulls me. We start kissing. He picks me up and he puts me on the counter.
Damn, this all sounds great.
It was great. Yeah, I was woo.
I'm scalp massage, turned sensual.
We didn't even get to the scalp massage yet. That's what I'm saying. I didn't even massage
Oh, you
him
just
yet.
touched his.
No, it was so funny. It was just he just lost it. He was okay, I can't take this anymore. So yeah, and then he was just is your floor clean?
I mopped, yes.
And I was yes. And, things progressed from there. And then we like moved to the bedroom. And that happened.
And this was the first time in...
I don't even know, girl. It's been a minute. It's been a while.
Wow. Okay.
I think years, yeah.
Mentally, where were you at when that was going down?
Mentally, I was in a lot of places because, number one, I felt bad. I was supposed to be at a bachelorette party. Like so I was in a wedding this year. I was in 2 weddings this year. And one of the weddings that I was in, her bachelorette festivities was in New York. One of my best friends was waiting for me, and I'm over here fucking with this dude.
Oh, no.
So I was preoccupied with that. That was the first thing I was preoccupied with, right? And I felt bad, but I was just like, oh, my gosh, this is a guy that I'm smitten over. And, you know, like we had, so mind you, we met in January. This is now May. And, you know, this is happening. So there was, you know, a lot of anticipation had built up at this point. So, yeah, I felt bad. I also was like, I don't want this to happen right now. You know, I still very much have those standards in me of, like, you know, commitment, like no sex without love and all these things. Of course, that lust was there because I was so smitten by him. I think he's very attractive, very sexy. So, yeah, but, yeah, the sex was not good.
Damn. I'm just mad you.
Mostly what made it not
it
good.
It didn't happen for so long, and then it did, and then it wasn't was even just like
that. What made it not good was there was a point where, like I looked at him, I was like he was on top of me, and I was looking into his eyes, and he averted eye contact from me, and that just made me
while you guys were having sex.
Yeah, and that made me feel empty, and that never happened to me, and that was another indicator of like this man does not care about you. He's not checking for you like that. And I just felt horrible. Like, never, ever have I ever had a sexual experience. Like, I've never had bad sex. Even my first time wasn't bad. And that just made me feel terrible. I just felt all of the things, right? So, in addition to sexual shit, like, I was like, oh, I want to get on top. This motherfucker ignored me twice.
What?
Yes. Because I was like, I want to get on top. And then, like, I said it twice, and he just kept going, and, you know.
Like, are you hearing me? I'm talking.
And then, you know, it ended. And I was pissed. I was like, how fucking selfish are you? And then he had the nerve to say, I went down on you twice. How am I selfish? I wanted to punch him in the face.
The second, it's not a tit for tat. First of all, sir, like, we're not, you know, I went down on you twice, like, so that means like, I'm not a selfish person.
Keeping score? Anyway, so, but again, I let it go because I did care about him, and it wasn't just sex at this point. Like, even though the sex wasn't that great. What made the sex not that great? Because there were times where it felt great, and I was like, don't stop.
Emotionally, it felt
but
it wasn't
emotionally,
great.
like, when his eyes averted from me, that's what did it. Like, that's when I knew, like, that intimacy wasn't there on his part. And so, you know, we talked after that. Like, I kind of made some jokes, you know, about it.
Did you know after that, though, that it wasn't going to continue? Like, you, based on
I had a feeling.
The eye contact?
I don't really know. I just knew that I felt kind of sad. Because, number one, I didn't want it to happen then. And that wasn't planned. Like, I didn't want that to be the way our first time went down. I mean, the atmosphere was nice. It was at my house. I burn candles anyway. Like, that's just what I do. So maybe that's another thing. He thought this was, like, going somewhere. I just burn candles in the house. So it was, you know, comfortable. Like, I had music playing, but it wasn't sexual. Like, that's what I do at home. So it's not like we had, you know, we did it in some random place. Like,
right.
But just, yeah, like that lack of emotional connection because, you know, I'm not even sexually attracted to you unless there's an emotional connection,
right.
Which is another reason why I can't do casual sex. Like, I've never experienced where I can just meet you in a bar and we have a one-night stand. Like, I'm just not even checking for you like that.
Same. Like, I don't have to know something about you to make me attracted.
It's physically, scientifically, biologically impossible for me to have sex with you if there's not an emotional characteristic, like, connection there, deep connection there. So yeah, that made me feel a little sad. But he wanted to spend the night, and so then my one of my best friends, the other bridesmaid who was coming in, because we're all like college besties, she was staying with me. So of course I was unsatisfied from the night before, and at this point I was like, "Fuck it, we about to do this again."
If I've already done it, it might as well be better,
right? And I love morning sex. I'm all about it. But then he was like, kind of like that self-conscious, like didn't want to like kiss me because he hadn't brushed his teeth, or like, and I was like, well, go brush your teeth. You know, like, I think that's corny. Well, whatever. Like, your fucking mouth was just in my...
Right. And like, especially if it's like, if we're on that level where we're already doing this, does that matter at this point?
So we started, but what made it funny was my doorbell rang.
Oh, no.
Because I had woken up, right? And my girl had texted me. She was like, oh, I landed. And they had landed kind of early, like maybe like an hour early. Mm-hmm. And I was like, shit. She's on her, like, I think I forget where she was flying from, maybe like JFK or Newark. And I was like, then I woke him up. Because I was like, I want to try this again before she gets here. So she gets there. And mind you, I hadn't told him that my friend was on the way, so he could have thought I was anybody. It was kind of funny because like my doorbell just rings and he just kind of gives me like this look, like what the hell. So like I get up, I put my robe on, I like close my door, and she's like, hey, we're like hugging. And she makes a beeline for my room with her luggage. I'm like, wait. I'm like, no, don't go. She's just looking at me like I'm crazy. It was funny. So I kind of told her what was happening. I was awkward in that point because
who wouldn't
this doesn't happen. But I didn't need to be that way with her because she's one of my closest friends, and I had told her about the guy that I liked and stuff. But she was just kind of confused, and I just didn't know how to deal with the situation because this obviously doesn't happen. This never happened,
right?
So we're talking in the kitchen, and then like we're giving him time to get his situation together, and he comes out my room and he like reemerges and he makes a cute little joke like he was pretending to be like a handyman, like, okay ma'am, I fixed your like air conditioner.
I fixed the plumbing.
Or something. It was cute. I was like, oh, and then we all started laughing, and that kind of like broke the ice. So then I like made brunch for us, and he was with us for like 2 hours maybe. He was like doing work on his laptop. We were all on my couch, like watching movies and stuff. And it was just cute because I was thinking like, my one of my best friends gets here. That's an out. Like most dudes like, okay, her girlfriend's here. I can leave. But he stayed with us. So that's what made it that much more difficult because it's like you didn't, like, why were you doing all this? If
right.
It wasn't, anything to you, right? So then he just got weird, of course. But then he like went on a trip. Then I went on to Spain in July. And so there was like kind of like a month where we didn't really talk to each other.
So what happened directly after that? So your friend leaves.
I was doing wedding stuff, little bachelorette stuff.
Was there a conversation, especially because this was like the first time that all this had went down? There'd been a conversation, especially a build up to it. Like
there was a conversation. The main conversation that happened was kind of like, listen, I know we're not in a exclusive relationship. I know we haven't established anything like that. But what I need you to know is if you're having sex with other people, you're not going to be having sex with me. Mm-hmm. I just needed him to know that. And that was, that's, conversation went fine or whatever. But again, like he went away.
Did he say whether he was having sex with other people?
He said he wasn't, but I knew like if a girl came that he liked, it would probably happen. It just so happened that because he was basically like, no, he's not having sex with somebody, but not because he was devoted to me, just because probably
the timing.
He wasn't interested in anybody else, right? Which is obviously not what you want to hear for somebody that you really like.
In between then, so you kind of had some time apart. You're doing wedding stuff. He's away. What are you thinking now?
I was insecure about the whole situation. I was thinking like, did he use me for sex? Because I don't even think we really went on like I said, he was away, like he went out of the country, and I was really busy at work, so we didn't really get to see each other, and that kind of also builds up the anticipation, right? And that attraction just builds up because it's like you want to see this person and you can't, so that like intensifies, the level of intensity for me, especially because I just share my body with this person. Right. I don't do that, so that was huge for me. So when we wound up linking up, we had dinner, and we had dinner at a restaurant within a hotel. So you know how like they bring out the bill, and we were having a good time. And when they bring out the bill when you're at a hotel, and they like there's like a line in there to charge it to the room.
Yep.
I think he made a joke about us getting a room, and then I said something like, I don't know why. It ain't like you gonna last long. I said something like real shady. And then that was kind of like my opening to that whole, like, that was how I opened up that whole conversation. Because I was like, no, and I laughed it off. But I was like, no, I don't want to have sex again because, and I brought up the no eye contact thing and how that made me feel.
What did he say to that?
He was just trying to say how eye contact doesn't signify intimacy. And
yes, it does.
Bruh, like, facts. It 100% does.
Yeah.
I was like, you are having a conversation with me right now. You're looking at me, but you can't look me in my eye when we're doing the most physical, the most intimate thing we can do together. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, please. But he was just trying to say how with his ex, they did that exercise where, like, that intimacy exercise where you look at each other and don't say anything for like 5 minutes, and that's supposed to build intimacy, and how he was saying that didn't work for him.
So what? And now I just don't do eye contact because that didn't work?
He was basically just trying to say that eye contact isn't a signifier for intimacy, and I disagree.
Yes, it is. I think it's the most basic form of intimacy.
Yeah,
I think it's the thing that lets you know where everybody's at. So sexual or not sexual, if you're walking down the street and somebody makes eye contact with you, that means something.
Yeah, no doubt.
If somebody walks right past you and doesn't, that also means something.
Yeah.
So it's the most basic form of intimacy.
Yeah. So, I mean, and leading up to this point, he was slowly opening up to me about different things. So I liked that. So at this point, right? So what wound up happening, he was talking about the physical intimacy, the eye contact and intimacy. And then he was talking about how he had just had a birthday and, how he is tired of having sex just for the sake of having sex, and he's ready for love, and he does recognize that sex is better when you love someone. And I was like, I'm just sitting there listening. I'm like, cool, this is great. And what else? He said he was like, kind of basically, I'm just be honest with you, I did have sex with somebody after you. I don't know why I had sex with her. He was kind of beating himself up because he was saying how he doesn't think that he's making good decisions.
Did you ask him that, or did he just offer that?
I didn't ask him. He told me. Mm-hmm. And but he was saying that as a segue into how he doesn't think that he was making good decisions. He said that he was saying how he didn't regret having sex with me, but he regretted having sex with that other person, and that it's just an indicator that he's like his mindset isn't right. Like he's. Like, I could tell he had issues, right? He has some traumas that he needs to work through. But I was happy in that moment that he was being vulnerable and that he was sharing these things with me because, again, like, getting to know this man was like pulling teeth. And, like, this type of stuff I normally didn't have the patience for. But, again, he was kind of like this anomaly where I was being patient and, trying to be sensitive to him. And, like, just his personality just seemed like, very sensitive and walking on eggshells, and like he would shut down if you like ask him too much too soon. So I was like changing myself, which, I definitely regret now. But, so, and then he's saying all these things and then he collapses into my freaking like shoulder and bosom area. And I'm just like that was so much for him to say. And I'm sure it was. And I just sat there, and we sat there in silence for a while, and I was just like giving him a moment. I think I was like rubbing his head or something.
Do you feel like he was having a moment where he really did dig deep to share some of the things he shared? Like it was a very vulnerable moment for him?
Oh, yeah. And then he said, oh my gosh, he said something where you could tell like this toxic masculinity he said something like, this is going to sound gay, but like that disclaimer where he was talking about how he wanted love and how he was tired of just casual sex and how he's done with that point in his life, just, getting ass, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's not gay. Like, why do you feel the need to put that disclaimer out there? You could tell like he's programmed to think some dumb shit, like some fuckboy shit. So, yeah, so after he said all that, he just collapses into my chest or whatever. And then I was like, I think I waited a couple minutes because I knew that was a lot for him. And I just knew he needed a moment. And then I was like, so what do you want from me? Like, why are you telling me this? And then like, he just clams up and he like gets up off of me really quick. You could tell he was like, I don't know. And I was like, listen, I said, we can be friends. I was cool. Again, I was cool with, still just taking things slow. Like, I was never trying to like get this man to be in a relationship with me like tomorrow. It was never about that.
I mean, I don't know what he's dealt with in the past or how it's affected the way that he deals with the present, but it sounds like he has a lot of things that he never dealt with, and he doesn't know how to deal with those things. And because of that, he's just sort of making decisions in the moment and not thinking things through. But knowing that that's not the way to go about it, but not knowing how to not go about it that way. How did that day end?
I was basically like, we can just, be friends. Of course, I was still interested in him. I still liked him. But I was never trying to like push him into anything.
So after that day, did you guys keep in regular communication?
I don't even know. I don't remember. Probably not. But I saw him. We were texting and talking, but stuff just started to get weirder. And we were at a rooftop party, and I just felt he was really cold. And I called him out on it, and because I had a really bad dream, like it fucked up. It was messing up my spirits, and I don't let stuff fester. Like I woke up, I said, it was a Sunday. I said, what are you doing today? I said, I'm coming over. We had to talk. And then I kind of just, I was talking about all of these things, and then so from there, that's when it kind of like. The shit just hit the fan. Like I was over his house and I was like, listen, I said, did you use me for sex? Mm-hmm. And then he kind of gave me this smirk. Like he was like, no. And he was eating his food as he was talking to me. The pivotal question that I asked him was, I said, when you told me that you were ready for love and, you wanted to find that in someone, I basically said like, you want those things. You just don't want them with me. And then he looked and he was like, yeah. And that was
ouch.
Yeah, man.
I've been there and ouch.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm so all about honesty. Like, of course it was a shot to my ego, right? I've never dealt with that before, but I wanted the honesty. I didn't want to have to wonder. And he was just saying like, he didn't even really give me a reason. He was just like, cause he kind of like, he started, telling me my qualities, like, how I'm attractive, intelligent, creative, this. He was like, it's just this feeling that he has and I'm not the one, right? Oh. And I was like, okay.
I respect the honesty, but yeah, that hurts in that moment. That I could feel that.
Of course. And what else? And that was all fine, but what my issue was that he kept trying to say that he didn't use me for sex, and that he was like, when a man, what did he say? He was like, when a man is thinking of you as a sexual object, you didn't get those feelings from me. And the conflicting information in his story was that when he came over to my house in May, because he told me, he said he knew then that I wasn't the one. So it's like, all right, cool. I'm not the one for you, no doubt. That's fine. Why would you initiate sex with me unless you're using me for sex? Or you do see me in that. Like, those two things don't match up.
If I'm thinking from a man's perspective for a moment, I feel like the way that he probably was viewing this and stating it to you was, I'm not using you for sex because I like you. I don't necessarily see you as my future, but I like you. I like hanging around you. I like your presence. I like your spirit. I like being around you. And so, yeah, I'm going to have sex with you. In his mind, using for sex means I don't actually like you. I just like having sex with you. Mm-hmm. So when you said to him, oh, we're using me for sex, he thought he was being honest when he said no, because it was, well, no, obviously not, because I like you. I like hanging around with you. I like being with you. I don't necessarily want this forever, but in his mind, no, he wasn't.
Yeah, I could totally see that being the case, no doubt. So, yeah, that was that. And then I told him about himself. I wasn't even, mean or anything, but, that whole time when, there were some mutual friends that was basically kind of, talking to me and, shipping us, pulling for him and telling me how he was a nice guy. Because I was skeptical from one day when I said, ain't no way this dude is not a hoe. You can't, because specific things that I don't want to say.
He was too cute to not
there's
be a
certain
hoe.
things I don't want to say to give away his identity. But I was like, there's no way you're not telling me this dude is not a hoe.
What made you hands down think he would be a hoe?
I can't say.
Okay.
Specific.
His qualities are that specific? So they go beyond he was cute?
Yes, they do. But just trust me. Just trust me on this. Like, there was just no way. So the fact that there were some mutual
that
friends,
Jay-Z line where he said, he's like, "Mommy, all you need to know is I'm not a hoe, and to be with me, you got to get Chief locks it down." For some reason, that just popped in my head. So ultimately, how did it end?
It ended in that conversation. I was like, okay, like I told him, I was trying to just get him to open up more, because all he was saying was that it was just a feeling. But I basically told him about himself, and then I was like, "You owe me an apology."
Did he give you one?
He did, like, reluctantly, but he was kind of like, he was basically apologizing for the sex.
What did you learn from that whole experience?
I went away to Spain. I had my little eat, pray, love moment. I was my best friend. Like, we were catching up. I was so happy to be with her. Like, that whole trip was just so refreshing for me. I was just so grateful, like, that I truly was able to get over that. Mm-hmm. And I was just happy. And I was like, life is short. I beat myself. I cried about it, as far as like my part and being stupid and not listening to myself and knowing better, all of these things. I saw him maybe like sporadically after that, like at events, and I was very cordial. I was like, "Hey, how you doing? Good to see you, blah, blah, blah." Keep it moving, like introduce him to people that I was with. But like, it was September. I had a dream about him. And in the dream, he was getting married. And for whatever reason, I was invited to the wedding, and I was at like the rehearsal dinner, and it was like he was saying the toast in the rehearsal dinner about his fiance and how, out of all the women in his life, like why she was the one. I don't remember the reasons, but he was just like, like just so doting of her and loving and just so happy that he found this woman. And I remember in the dream, I was genuinely happy for him. And it was one of those dreams where you wake up and like it felt real, and you're like, "Oh shit, that was a dream."
At this point, would you be genuinely happy for him?
Oh, no doubt. But that's what I'm saying. Like, when I woke up, I was like, shit, I fucking love that man. That's how I knew, because it wasn't like I expect anything from him. I wasn't trying to get with him. But the fact that I was genuinely happy for his happiness, that's what let me know like that unconditional real love was there. And to this day, like I've hit him up, like I've sent him stuff that's helpful for him. Like I check on him. Like there's been times where like he has issues, and he's like told me how he's not happy. And I've told him, I was like, "Well, you need a therapy session. You can come over." I've invited him to game nights, all of these things, right? Just always being kind.
Right.
Because that's what love is. It isn't like you don't stop loving. And I didn't realize I loved him until that moment, right? Because you don't stop loving somebody because they hurt you. You know? Like I always say that relationships are conditional, love isn't. So that was what I truly learned from this. I was like, if I ever had any doubt that I had the capacity for love, like I know it now, because again, like I've been in that 7-year relationship, we were madly in love with each other. It was mutual. It wasn't unrequited. But to have to experience someone that didn't want me, and I don't expect anything from him. Like we actually went to a concert together in October, and we had a good time. There was nothing, no kind of awkwardness, no sexual stuff, nothing of that.
So you genuinely just love him as a person?
I genuinely love him as a person. I care about him. I've never even had a chance to tell him that, like, because we've never like sat down.
Would you tell him that?
No doubt. I don't think saying I love you should be this big deal. Like the moment I know that I love you, I don't mind saying that. And I think it's sad that people feel like they have to like hide it. It's not about what I can get from him. So that was beautiful for me to even learn. That takes so much strength.
That's
huge. Like, it takes so much strength to, especially somebody that's hurt you, and then just to still genuinely, like, again, and it's not like I'm allowing somebody to abuse me. Like,
right.
I've told him about himself. Like, I will continue to tell him about himself when he does some fucked up shit where he needs his ass whooped.
But people have this attitude, I think, where it's like you have to dislike your exes or people that you've been with or people that hurt you. It has to be like, well, we're no longer together, so that person can't be a friend and I don't like them. And it's like, what happened in the relationship doesn't discard everything that you shared. Like it doesn't change who that person is and what you loved about them. It might change the status of the relationship, but it doesn't mean like automatically now we're not together, I have to dislike you. It's like, no, you can still appreciate and love a person and not have the same relationship that you did before.
You never know why God brings that person into your life. But that was a humbling experience for me, to be stupid and to not listen to things that I already knew. And I had to go through that, and I will never go through that again.
You learned the lesson.
I will never go through that again. But that was something that I needed to learn by experience, right? To know that I was like, all right, okay. You were kind of taking it for granted that you had your shit together and that you had your standards, and
you got caught up. You got caught up in the feelings.
So now I was like, God's like, let me humble you down a little bit, you know.
So what's next for you?
I have a lot of travel plans. I want to buy real estate this year. I plan on starting designing with a big company this year. Just continuing to grow. I'm really excited. Always open to love in the meantime. But yeah, I have a lot of like personal goals as far as like just building wealth and, building life experience as far as domestic travel, international travel, helping people, seeing my family more, just building my relationships.
Where can people reach you?
My website is www.jazmin.org.
Is it Jazmin or Jazmin?
My name is Jazmin.
Oh, okay. What's your Instagram?
Jazmin Style. Jazmeen Style.
Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thanks
and for sharing.
Having me.
That was a great story, and I feel like there was a lot of lessons in that. And the biggest lesson, I think, is follow your instinct, trust your gut, but also understand sometimes you got to go through some shit to get through some shit.
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. And thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. And please reach out and let me know what you think of today's show. You can reach me at Tanisha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.